Picture this, it's a super hot Saturday. The sun is blazing down like a giant oven in the sky. Everything feels sticky and sweaty. I'm Jake, just a regular kid, nothing fancy. I'm not super tall or super strong, just a guy who loves fun. And today? Today was going to be the best day ever. Why? Because I was throwing a pool party at my house. Yup, a big, splashy, awesome pool party with all my friends. We'd been talking about it for weeks, and finally, it was here. My backyard was ready. The pool was sparkling blue, all clean and cool. I had floaties shaped like flamingos and sharks bobbing around. There were snacks, chips, cookies, and icy lemonade in a big jug. My buddies were pumped. Max, my best friend, showed up with his goofy grin, ready to jump in. Sarah brought her big beach ball, and Tim had his water guns. We were going to make waves, literally. The music was blasting, too. Fun songs about summer and sunshine. We turned it up loud, and pretty soon, we were all laughing and splashing like crazy. The sun was high, the water was cold, and everything felt perfect. I did a huge cannonball off the diving board splash. Water went everywhere, and my friends cheered. Max tried to dunk me, but I swam away fast. Sarah tossed the beach ball, and Tim shot his water gun right at my face. It was awesome. We were having the time of our lives, just being kids, you know? No homework, no chores, just fun. But then, out of nowhere, she showed up. Karen. Oh man, if you don't know Karen, let me tell you, she's the worst. She's the HOA queen. HOA means Homeowners Association, this group of grown ups who make rules for our neighborhood. Stuff like no loud music or keep your grass short. And Karen? She's the bossiest of them all. She's got this sour face, like she just ate a lemon, and she walks around acting like she owns everything. Her hair's always perfect, her clothes are fancy, and she's got this loud voice that makes you want to hide. So, there I am, dripping wet from the pool, when Karen marches right up to my fence. She's got her arms crossed, and her eyes are squinting at me like I'm some kind of bug. My friends stop splashing. The music's still going, but it feels quieter somehow. Karen stares at us, and I can tell she's mad. Really mad. I wipe water off my face and look at her. What's up? I say, trying to sound chill. But inside, my stomach does a little flip. Karen doesn't mess around. She doesn't say hi. She doesn't smile. She just points at me and says, "You're too loud, kid." Her voice is sharp, like a teacher yelling at you in class. This party is breaking all the rules. I'm in charge around here, and I say it's got to stop. My friends look at me, wide-eyed. Max whispers, "Uh-oh, Jake. She's gonna ruin it." Sarah hugs her beach ball like it's a shield. Tim hides his water gun behind his back. But me? I just stand there, water dripping off my shorts, and shrug. It's my yard, I say. We're just having fun. Karen's face gets even redder, like a big angry tomato. Fun, she snaps. This isn't fun, it's a disaster. You're bothering everyone. I look around. The street's quiet. No one else is complaining. Just Karen. Always Karen. She pulls out her phone and waves it at me. "I'm calling the HOA," she says. "And if that doesn't work, I'm calling the cops." My buddies gasp. Cops? For a pool party? That's nuts. But Karen's serious. She's already tapping her screen, her nose in the air like she's won a big prize. Now, here's where it gets good. See, Karen thinks she's got me trapped. She thinks I'm just some dumb kid who's about to get in big trouble. My friends are freaking out, whispering stuff like, "Jake, what do we do, and are we going to jail?" But I'm not scared. Why? Because I know something Karen doesn't. Something big. Something wild. Trouble's coming, alright, but it's not coming for me. Oh no. It's coming for her. And she has no clue. Let me back up a little. Earlier that day, before the party even started, I saw something weird. Down the street, like 3 houses away, there was a cop car. Just sitting there. No lights flashing, no sirens, nothing. Just parked, quiet as a mouse. I didn't think much of it at first, maybe they were lost or taking a break. But now, with Karen yelling and waving her phone, that cop car popped back into my head. What if it wasn't random? What if it meant something bigger? So, there's Karen, acting all high and mighty, thinking she's about to shut my party down. And there's me, standing by the pool, soaking wet, with a little grin starting to grow on my face. My friends are nervous, but I'm not. I've got a feeling this day is about to flip upside down, and not in the way Karen expects. What do you think she did to mess with my party? Was it just the phone call, or something worse? And why were those cops hanging around? Stick with me, because this story's about to get totally bonkers. Before we go on, tell me, have you ever had someone try to ruin your fun? Maybe a grumpy neighbor or a mean teacher? Drop it in the comments. I want to know. Oh, and guess what Karen's about to find out? Any ideas? Hang tight, this is just the start, and it's gonna be a wild ride. Okay, so there we were, me and my buddies having the best time ever at my pool party. The music was blasting, loud and bouncy, the kind that makes you want to dance. The sun was shining bright, and the pool water felt so cold and nice. We were cannonballing like crazy. Splash! 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 Water flew everywhere, and we couldn't stop laughing. Max, my best friend, did this huge jump and made a wave that soaked Sarah. She squealed and splashed him back. Tim was running around with his water gun, spraying everyone. It was loud, it was messy, and it was awesome. Then, all of a sudden, everything changed. I heard this stomping sound, like someone marching fast. I looked up, and there she was, Karen. Oh boy, Karen was mad. She stormed right up to my fence, her face redder than a big, ripe tomato. Her eyes were squinted, and her mouth was all tight, like she'd just sucked on a sour candy. She stood there, hands on her hips, staring at us like we were the worst kids in the world. My friends stopped splashing. The music kept going, but it felt quieter somehow, like her angry face sucked all the fun out of the air. This noise is unacceptable. Karen screeched. Her voice was so loud and high, it hurt my ears. She pointed her bony finger right at me, like I was the only one to blame. You kids are too loud. You're breaking all the rules. I blinked at her, water dripping off my hair. My buddies froze, looking at me with big, scared eyes. Max whispered, "Jake, she's nuts." Sarah hugged her beach ball tight, and Tim dropped his water gun into the pool by accident. They were freaked out, but I wasn't. Not yet. Karen kept going. "I'm in charge of the HOA," she yelled. "I make the rules around here, and I say this party is done." She waved her arms like she was shooing away a bunch of flies. "I'm calling the HOA right now, and if they don't stop you, I'm calling the cops." My friends gasped. Cops? For real? Over a pool party? That sounded crazy, even for Karen. She pulled out her phone, this shiny thing with a sparkly case, and started tapping on it. She smirked at me, her lips curling up like she'd already won a big fight. I stood there, wet and cold from the pool, and just shrugged. "Go ahead, lady," I said, keeping my voice calm. "It's my yard. We're not hurting anyone." My buddies looked at me like I was nuts. "Jake, what are you doing?" Max hissed. "She's gonna get us in trouble." Sarah nodded, her eyes wide. "What if the cops come? My mom will ground me forever." Tim picked up his water gun from the pool and held it like a teddy bear. They were scared, and I get it, Karen looked mean, and she sounded meaner. But here's the thing, I wasn't worried. Not one bit. Why? Because Karen didn't know something. She thought she was the big boss, the queen of the neighborhood, but I had a secret. Well, not really a secret, just something I'd seen earlier that day. Before the party started, when I was setting up the snacks, I noticed a cop car. It was parked way down the street, maybe 4 or 5 houses away. It wasn't moving. No lights were flashing, no siren was blaring, just sitting there, quiet and sneaky. I didn't think much of it then. Cops drive around sometimes, right? Maybe they were eating donuts or something. But now, with Karen yelling and waving her phone, that cop car popped back into my brain. What if it wasn't there by accident? What if they were watching something or someone? I looked at Karen, still screeching about rules and noise, and I started to wonder. Were they here for my party, or for something else? My heart beat a little faster, but not from being scared. It was from excitement. Something big was coming, and I could feel it. Karen didn't notice me staring. She was too busy acting like a superhero who just caught a bad guy. I'm dialing 911 right now, she said, holding her phone up high so we could all see. You'll be sorry, kid. She tapped the screen hard, like she was trying to smash it, and put the phone to her ear. Yes, hello, she barked into it. I need the police. There's a loud, awful party here, and these kids won't stop. She glared at me, her eyes like little lasers. My friends huddled closer together, whispering stuff like, "We're toast," and "Jake, do something." I didn't move. I just stood there, water dripping off me, and watched her. Karen thought she had me trapped. She thought I was just some silly kid who didn't know better. But she didn't see what I saw, that cop car, sitting there all sneaky like. And she didn't know what I was starting to guess. Trouble was close, real close, and it wasn't my trouble. Nope. It was hers. I could feel it in my gut, like when you know a surprise is coming but you don't know what it is yet. Max tugged my arm. Jake, she's calling the cops. What if they arrest us, he said, his voice all shaky. Sarah nodded fast. Yeah, I don't want to go to jail. I didn't even splash that much. Tim looked at his water gun and mumbled, maybe I shouldn't have brought this. They were freaking out, and I couldn't blame them. Karen was loud, she was mean, and she had that phone glued to her ear like it was a weapon. But I just smiled a tiny bit. Relax, I told them. Let her call. This is gonna be fun. Karen smirked again, like she'd heard me and thought I was dumb. Fun, she said, all sassy. You won't think it's fun when the police get here. She turned away, talking into her phone, telling them my address. My friends stared at me, waiting for me to fix it. But I didn't need to fix anything. That cop car down the street. It was still there in my mind, like a puzzle piece I couldn't figure out yet. And Karen? She was about to find out something wild. Guess who's gonna be surprised? Stick around, you'll see. So, there we were, stuck in the middle of my pool party mess. Karen was on her phone now, yelling so loud I bet the whole neighborhood could hear her. Yes, officer, she shouted. There's a delinquent throwing a loud party. He's breaking all the rules. Send someone quick. Her voice was sharp, like a teacher scolding you for talking in class. She glared at me with those mean, squinty eyes, thinking she had me totally trapped. Her lips were smirking, like she'd already won the biggest prize ever. My buddies were freaking out. Max, my best friend, leaned close and whispered, Jake, we're toast. She's calling the cops. His eyes were big, like he thought we'd all be in handcuffs soon. Sarah hugged her beach ball tighter and mumbled, my mom's gonna kill me if I get in trouble. Tim held his water gun and stared at the ground, like it was his fault for splashing too much. They were scared, and I get it. Karen looked like a supervillain from a comic book, all bossy and loud. The music was still playing, but nobody was dancing anymore. The pool party felt like it was sinking fast. But me? I wasn't worried. Not even a little. See, I'd noticed something weird about Karen while she was yelling. Her hands, they were shaking. Not just a tiny bit, like when you're cold, but a lot. Her fingers wiggled as she held the phone, and it wasn't just because she was mad. I watched her closer. She kept looking over her shoulder, quick little peeks, like she thought something was behind her. Was she scared? Nervous? It didn't make sense. She was the one calling the cops, so why was she acting all jumpy? I stood there, dripping wet from the pool, and started thinking. That cop car I'd seen earlier, it popped back into my head like a light bulb turning on. I'd spotted it before the party, parked way down the street. No lights flashing, no sirens going, just sitting there, quiet as a cat sneaking around. At first, I thought it was nothing, maybe the cops were bored or lost. But now, with Karen acting all shaky and weird, it felt like a clue. A big, sneaky clue. Were they here for my party, or for something else? My brain was buzzing with questions. Karen finished her call and hung up with a loud, humph. She crossed her arms tight, like a supervillain who'd just beat the hero. She turned to me, her red face glowing in the sun, and snapped, "You're done, kid. The police are on their way, and you're in big trouble." She pointed that bony finger at me again, like it was a magic wand that could zap me away. My friends gasped. Max grabbed my arm and whispered, "Jake, what do we do?" "She's serious." Sarah nodded fast. "Yeah, I don't want to go to jail. I'm too young." Tim looked at his water gun and said, "Maybe we should hide this stuff." I didn't say anything at first. I just grinned a tiny, sneaky grin and looked at Max. "This is gonna be good," I whispered back. His eyes got wide. "Good," he hissed. "She's calling the cops, Jake." "That's not good." Sarah peeked over her beach ball and said, "Are you crazy? We're doomed." But I shook my head. "Trust me," I said. "Just watch." They didn't get it yet, but I had a feeling, a big, exciting feeling that something wild was about to happen. Karen didn't hear us whispering. She was too busy acting like she ruled the world. She paced back and forth by my fence, her fancy shoes clicking on the ground. "You kids think you can do whatever you want," she said, her voice all high and sassy. "Well, not in my neighborhood. I've been watching you, and this party is the last straw." She kept talking, saying stuff about rules and noise and how she was the boss of everything. But every few seconds, she'd sneak another look over her shoulder. Her hands were still shaky, and her face looked sweaty, even though it was hot for all of us. I tilted my head and watched her closer. Why was she so nervous? She was the one winning, right? She'd called the cops, and they were coming, or so she thought. But the more I stared, the more I noticed little things. Her voice cracked a tiny bit when she said police. Her eyes darted around, like she was waiting for something bad to jump out. It was weird. Super weird. Karen was always loud and mean, but I'd never seen her like this. What was she hiding? Then it hit me like a big splash of pool water right in the face. That cop car down the street. It wasn't moving. Not an inch. I'd seen it earlier, just sitting there, all sneaky and still. No lights, no sirens, no nothing. Just waiting. And now, with Karen acting all jumpy and strange, it clicked. Maybe, just maybe, those cops weren't here for me. Maybe they were here for her. My grin got bigger. I couldn't help it. This was starting to feel like a mystery movie, and I was the detective figuring it out. Karen stopped pacing and glared at me again. "What are you smiling at, you little troublemaker?" she snapped. "You won't be smiling when the cops haul you away." She shook her phone at me, like it was proof she'd won. My buddies looked at me, super confused. Max whispered, "Jake, why are you grinning? This is bad." Sarah nodded. "Yeah, she's gonna get us grounded forever." But I just shrugged. "Wait and see," I said. "Karen's in for a surprise." She huffed and turned away, muttering stuff about stupid kids and no respect. But I kept watching her. Her hands were still shaky. Her peeks over her shoulder got faster. She was scared of something, and I was starting to guess what. That cop car wasn't random. It was there for a reason. And Karen? She had no idea what was coming. Oh man, this was gonna be wild. She thought she was the big winner, but the real trouble was sneaking up on her. My heart was racing now, not from fear, but from excitement. What was about to happen? Stick around, because Karen's about to find out she's not as smart as she thinks. Okay, so things were getting crazy at my pool party. Karen had just called the cops, thinking she'd won. She was standing by my fence, arms crossed, smirking like she was the smartest person ever. My buddies were nervous, whispering stuff like, "Jake, we're in trouble, and the cops are gonna get us." The music was still playing, but nobody cared about it anymore. We were all just waiting, holding our breath, watching Karen act like a big shot. Then, a few minutes later, I heard it tires crunching on the gravel. A loud, bumpy sound, like rocks getting squished. I looked up, and there it was, a police cruiser, rolling right up to my driveway. The car was shiny, with big black and white colors, and it stopped with a little squeak. My heart jumped. This was it. The cops were here. My friends froze. Max grabbed my arm and whispered, "Jake, That's them. We're done for. Sarah's beach ball slipped out of her hands and rolled away. Tim stared at his water gun like it was a bomb. Karen's eyes lit up, all sparkly and happy. She clapped her hands and crowed, "See? I told you." Her voice was loud and proud, like she'd just saved the day. She marched toward the cop car, her fancy shoes clicking fast on the ground. "Officers," she called, waving her arms. "Over here. These kids are the problem. Arrest them." She pointed at me with that bony finger, her smirk so big it almost touched her ears. She thought she was the hero, and we were the bad guys. My buddies looked at me, their faces pale. "Jake, what now?" Max said, his voice all shaky. But then, the car door opened, and an officer stepped out. He was tall, with a dark uniform and a serious face. He didn't smile. He didn't wave. And here's the wild part, he wasn't looking at me. Nope. He was looking right at Karen. Her march slowed down a little, but she kept going, still acting big and bossy. "Officer, thank goodness you're here," she said. "These kids have been so loud, breaking all the rules. Do something." The cop didn't say anything at first. He just stared at her, his eyes all narrow and stern. Then he spoke, and his voice was deep and serious. "Ma'am," he said, "are you Karen Peterson?" My buddies and I went quiet. Karen's smug grin dropped, just a little. She blinked fast, like she wasn't sure she heard him right. Yes," she said, her voice wobbly now. "That's me." "Why?" The officer reached into his car and pulled out a clipboard. It had papers on it, all official looking. He flipped a page and looked at her again. "We've got a warrant for your arrest," he said. "A warrant?" My jaw hit the floor like, it felt like my mouth fell all the way to my feet. "An arrest? For Karen?" What was happening? My friends gasped. Max whispered, "Whoa, what?" Sarah's eyes got huge. Tim dropped his water gun into the pool with a splash. Karen's face went white, like all the color just ran away. "A arrest," she stammered. "Me? No, you've got it wrong. I called you. It's these kids. They're the problem." She pointed at me again, but her hand was shaking now. The cop didn't even look at me. He kept his eyes on her and shook his head. "This isn't about noise complaints," he said. "You've been scamming the HOA for months. Stealing dues, faking reports. We've been watching you all day." My brain exploded. Scamming. Stealing. Karen. I couldn't believe it. My pool party wasn't the trouble, she was. That cop car I'd seen earlier, parked down the street all sneaky like. It wasn't there for me or my music. It was tailing her. The whole time I thought we were in trouble, they were waiting to catch Karen red-handed. And my pool party? It was like the perfect trap to get her out in the open. Karen's mouth opened and closed, like a fish flopping on the ground. "That's ridiculous," she yelled. "I didn't steal anything. I'm the HOA boss. I make the rules." She waved her arms, her voice getting louder and squeakier. But the cop didn't budge. He held up his clipboard and read from it. "Over $5,000 missing," he said. "Fake papers saying you fixed stuff that never got fixed. Neighbors complaining about you, not the kids." He looked at her hard. "We've got proof, ma'am. You're coming with us." I couldn't stop staring. $5,000. That's a lot of money. Karen had been taking it from the HOA, the group that's supposed to help our neighborhood, and keeping it for herself? My friends were just as shocked. Max whispered, "She's a thief." Sarah nodded fast. I knew she was mean, but wow. Tim picked up his water gun and grinned. "This is better than TV." Karen's face wasn't red anymore, it was pale, like a ghost. "No," she shouted. "You can't do this. I'm innocent." But the cop didn't care. He pulled out handcuffs, shiny, silver ones, and stepped closer. "Turn around, ma'am," he said. Karen backed up, her eyes wild. "This is a mistake," she cried. "I'll sue you. I'll sue everyone." But another cop got out of the car, and they both moved toward her. She was trapped. I looked at my buddies and grinned big. "Told you this would be good," I said. Max laughed. Good. This is awesome. Sarah bounced on her toes. She's going to jail. Tim aimed his water gun at the sky and cheered. We couldn't believe it. Karen, the mean HOA queen, was the real bad guy all along. And me? I'd been right. That cop car wasn't for us. My pool party wasn't the problem, it was the thing that helped catch her. Karen kept yelling as the cops grabbed her arms. Let me go. You've got the wrong person. But they didn't listen. They snapped the handcuffs on her wrists, click, click, and started walking her to the car. Her fancy shoes dragged on the gravel, and her perfect hair got all messy. My jaw was still on the floor, but now I was smiling, too. This was the wildest thing I'd ever seen. So, there we were, standing by the pool, watching the wildest thing ever. Karen was freaking out. The cops had just told her she was under arrest for stealing HOA money, not for my pool party noise. Her face was all white and sweaty, and she looked like she wanted to run away. She waved her arms like a crazy bird, flapping them up and down. This is outrageous, she yelled, her voice loud and squeaky. I'm the victim here. You can't do this to me. She pointed at the cops, then at me, then at the sky, like she was mad at everything. But the cops? They didn't care one bit. They weren't buying her story. The tall officer with the clipboard shook his head. Ma'am, we've got proof, he said, all calm and serious. You're coming with us. Karen's eyes got big, like she couldn't believe it. No, she shouted. I'm the HOA boss. I didn't steal anything. But the other cop stepped closer, holding those shiny silver handcuffs. They weren't messing around. Karen tried to back away, her fancy shoes slipping on the gravel. You've got the wrong person, she cried. But the cops were fast. They grabbed her arms, one on each side, and snapped the handcuffs on her wrists. Click. Click. The sound was loud, like a door locking shut. Karen screamed, "Let me go. This is a mistake." Her voice echoed all around, bouncing off the houses. It was so loud, I bet even the birds heard her. My friends and I just stood there, jaws dropped, watching it all. The cops didn't listen to her screams. They pulled her toward the police cruiser, her feet dragging a little. She kept yelling stuff like, "I'll sue you. I'll tell everyone you're mean." But they stuffed her right into the back of the car. She banged on the window with her cuffed hands, her face all red and messy now. The door slammed shut, boom, and that was it. Karen was caught. My buddies couldn't hold it in anymore. Max threw his arms up and cheered, "Yes." Sarah laughed and splashed water at me, yelling, "She's gone." Tim grabbed his water gun from the pool and shot it into the air like a victory blast. Splash! Splash! We all started jumping around, water flying everywhere. The pool party was back on. I high-fived Max hard, my hand stinging a little. "She's outta here," I said, grinning big. The cops turned on the car, and we watched as they drove away, Karen's mad face glaring out the window until they were gone. We kept splashing and laughing, but I couldn't stop thinking about what just happened. Karen, the mean HOA queen, was a thief. Later that day, after the party calmed down, my mom came out with some news. She'd talked to a neighbor who knew the whole story. "Jake," she said, "you won't believe this. Karen's been pocketing HOA cash for months." I tilted my head. "Pocketing?" I asked. Mom nodded. "Yup. Taking it for herself. She stole money that was supposed to fix the playground and stuff like that." My eyes got wide. "What did she do with it?" I asked. Mom smiled a little. "Oh, fancy stuff," she said. "Designer purses, those really expensive bags. A hot tub for her backyard. Even a big TV that's bigger than ours." I couldn't believe it. Karen was always yelling at us about rules, but she was the one breaking them. She'd been sneaking money, thousands of dollars, and buying all this cool stuff while pretending to be the boss. Max overheard and ran over. "A hot tub," he said. "That's nuts." Sarah splashed up next to us. "And purses." She didn't even share. Tim nodded, holding his water gun. "She's the worst." We all laughed, picturing Karen sitting in her hot tub, counting stolen money, thinking she'd never get caught. But now she was headed to jail. No more hot tubs, no more purses, just a tiny room with bars. Ha! The neighborhood was free of her nonsense at last. No more Karen stomping around, telling us what to do. No more mean looks or loud yells about rules. My mom said the HOA was already picking someone new to be in charge, someone nice who wouldn't steal. Good riddance, Mom said, and I nodded. Yeah, super good riddance. The sun was starting to go down now, turning the sky all orange and pink. My friends and I sat by the pool, eating the last of the chips and sipping lemonade. The water was calm, with floatas bobbing around like nothing had happened. I looked at Max and grinned. Best pool party ever, he said, crumbs all over his face. I laughed and high-fived him again. Yeah, I said. It really was. We'd started the day just wanting to swim and have fun. Then Karen showed up, trying to ruin everything with her big mouth and her phone. But instead of us getting in trouble, she got caught. The cops took her away, and we got to cheer. It was like a movie, a crazy, awesome movie where the bad guy loses and the good guys win. And we didn't even have to do anything. My pool party turned into the thing that trapped her. How cool is that? I leaned back on the grass, looking at the sky. The music was still playing, soft now, and my friends were giggling about Karen's mad face in the cop car. She looked like a tomato. Sarah said. A screaming tomato. Tim added, and we all cracked up. It felt good, really good. Justice was served, like when the hero beats the villain in a story. Karen thought she could boss us around forever, but she was wrong. Now she was gone, and we were still here, having the best day ever. The pool sparkled in the sunset, and I smiled big. No more Karen meant no more trouble, at least for a while. We could swim, play, and be kids without her yelling at us. I high-fived Max one more time, just because. Party's not over yet, I said. He grinned. Nope. Let's cannonball. And we did splash, making waves until it got dark. Karen was history, and we were free. Best day ever. Okay, you guys, let's talk about what just happened. My pool party started as a fun day with my friends splashing, laughing, and eating snacks. Then Karen showed up, acting all big and loud, like she was the queen of everything. She thought she could boss me around, shut down my fun, and make me feel small. But guess what? She was wrong, super wrong. So, here's the deal, sometimes the loudest people, the ones who act like they're in charge, are hiding the biggest secrets. And Karen? Oh man, she had a huge secret. See, Karen thought she was so smart. She yelled at me, called the cops, and waved her phone like it was a magic wand. She was sure she'd win, sure she'd make me stop my party. But she never saw the real trouble coming, her own mess. All that time she was stealing money from the HOA, buying fancy purses and a hot tub. She thought nobody would catch her. She thought she could keep being mean and bossy forever. But nope. The cops were watching her, not me. My pool party turned into the thing that trapped her. How wild is that? It makes me think about stuff. Karen was loud and pushy, but she was the one doing bad things. She acted like she was better than everyone, but she was hiding something sneaky. And me? I was just a kid having fun, not hurting anyone. I didn't even know her secret at first, I just wanted to swim. But in the end, the truth came out, and Karen got what she deserved. She's off to jail now, and my friends and I got to cheer. It's like a big lesson, don't judge people too fast, because you might miss the real story. What about you? Have you ever met a Karen? You know, someone who's all loud and mean, trying to ruin your day? Maybe a grumpy neighbor who yells about your bike, or a kid at school who acts like they're the boss of recess. Did they ever get what they deserved, like Karen did? Tell me in the comments below, I really want to know. I bet you've got some cool stories, and I'd love to hear them. Drop them down there, and let's talk about it. This whole thing with Karen got me thinking more. Sometimes, the people who seem big and tough aren't as strong as they look. Karen was scary at first, her red face, her loud voice, her mean words. My friends were freaked out, and I'll admit, my tummy flipped a little when she called the cops. But I didn't give up. I stayed calm, watched her, and waited. And you know what? That paid off. The truth came out, and she couldn't hide anymore. It's like, even when someone's yelling at you, you don't have to be scared. Just keep being you, and things might turn out okay or even awesome, like my pool party did. Hey, don't judge a kid with a pool party, okay? That's another big thing I learned. Karen looked at me and saw a troublemaker, just some loud kid with wet hair and a bunch of floitas. She didn't think I mattered. But she was so wrong. My party wasn't the problem, it was the thing that helped catch her. If I'd listened to her and stopped, maybe she'd still be out there, stealing and bossing people around. So, next time you see someone having fun, don't be quick to say they're bad. You might miss the real story like Karen did with me. This makes me feel strong, you know? Like, even if I'm just a kid, I can still make a difference. I didn't fight Karen with fists or yell back at her. I just kept doing my thing, splashing with my friends, grinning when she got mad. And that was enough. The cops did the rest. It's cool to think about. You don't have to be big or loud to win. Sometimes, just being yourself is the best way to show who's really right. Karen thought she had all the power, but in the end, she had none. And me? I got to keep my party going. So, what's the big takeaway? Be brave, be you, and don't let the Karens of the world push you down. They might scream and stomp, but they can't stop the truth from coming out. My day started with a pool and some snacks, and it ended with Karen in handcuffs. Crazy, right? It's like a superhero story, but real. And you can be part of stories like that, too. Maybe not with cops and pool parties, but in your own way at school, at home, wherever. Don't let mean people trick you into feeling small. You've got your own power, even if it's quiet. I'm still smiling about all this. The sun went down, my friends went home, and I can still hear Karen's screams in my head, funny ones now, not scary ones. My pool's empty today, but the memory of that party? It's huge. I hope you liked the story as much as I liked living it. Tell me what you think. Did it make you laugh? Cheer. Drop it in the comments, and let's keep the fun going. Oh, and if you've got a Karen in your life, watch out, she might not see her own trouble coming, just like mine didn't. See ya next time, you awesome people. Keep splashing, keep smiling, and don't let anyone ruin your day. You never know when the loudest voice might be the one that falls. Bye for now, let's make more cool stories together soon.